The Oakhaven Public Library hummed with a quiet, ancient rhythm. It was a sound Elara Vance knew as intimately as her own heartbeat. The rustle of turning pages, the soft scuff of shoes on polished wood, the barely there whisper of the heating system settling into its morning routine. For Elara, the library wasn't just a job, it was a sanctuary, a living, breathing testament to the myriad stories that had shaped human existence. She ran a hand over the spine of a leather-bound poetry anthology, its gold lettering dulled with age but still legible. Mornings were her favorite. Before the rush of schoolchildren after lunch, before the elderly residents arrived to browse the newspapers, before the busy professionals snatched up their audiobooks. In these early hours, the library belonged almost entirely to her, and to the ghosts of 1,000 authors whose words still lingered in the air like a benevolent mist. Elara herself was a creature of quiet habits. Her dark hair, usually braided or tied back with a simple ribbon, framed a face that was often thoughtful, sometimes alight with a gentle smile. Her eyes, the color of warm hazelnut coffee, missed little, especially when it came to the hidden narratives people carried within them. She wore practical, comfortable clothes, soft cardigans, skirts that allowed for easy movement between towering shelves, always chosen for their ability to blend into the library's comforting aesthetic rather than draw attention. Oakhaven was a town that time had treated kindly. Nestled in a valley cradled by rolling hills, it was famed for its ancient oak trees, its independent shops, and a community spirit that felt almost anachronistic in its warmth. The library, a sturdy Victorian building with a grand arched entrance and tall leaded glass windows, stood proudly on Elm Street, a stone's throw from the town square where a weekly farmer's market buzzed with life. Today, Elara was meticulously reshelving a cart of returns, her movements precise and practiced. Each book was a small world, a journey taken and returned, waiting for its next adventurer. She paused at a particularly worn copy of a classic novel, its pages soft from countless readings. She remembered reading it herself as a teenager, huddled in her window seat during a thunderstorm, the words transporting her far beyond her small bedroom. That feeling of escape, of connection, was what she cherished most about books. It was why she loved her job. It was why she felt complete amidst the quiet companionship of stories. The grandfather clock in the main hall chimed 9 times, its resonant bongs echoing through the high ceilings. The first patrons would begin to trickle in soon. Elara straightened a stack of new arrivals on the display table, admiring their vibrant covers. She loved introducing people to their next great read, guiding them through the labyrinthine shelves, listening intently to their preferences, and offering tailored recommendations. It was a subtle form of connection, a shared secret between reader and guide. Just as she was about to head to the circulation desk, the heavy oak doors creaked open, letting in a sliver of crisp autumn air and a faint scent of wood smoke and damp earth. A man stepped inside and Elara paused, a book in her hand. He was a stranger, which was unusual in Oakhaven. Most newcomers were immediately identifiable, often by their slightly bewildered expressions as they navigated the town's charming but winding streets. This man, however, seemed to move with a quiet confidence, as if he knew exactly where he was going, even if he didn't. He was tall, with broad shoulders encased in a dark, practical jacket that looked well-worn but cared for. His hair, a rich shade of chestnut, was slightly tousled, as if he'd just run a hand through it. But it was his eyes that caught Elara's attention, a startlingly clear shade of deep forest green, framed by dark lashes, and currently scanning the vast space of the library with an intensity that suggested he wasn't just looking. He walked deeper into the main hall, his footsteps surprisingly soft on the polished wood floor. He didn't head for the new releases, or the popular fiction, or even the computers. Instead, he gravitated towards the back, where the non-fiction section sprawled, encompassing everything from ancient history to modern philosophy. Specifically, he headed towards the local history section, a quiet corner often overlooked by casual browsers. Elara watched him for a moment, a flicker of curiosity stirring within her. Who was he? What was he looking for in such an obscure section? She had a knack for guessing, a library-honed intuition, but this man was an enigma. She returned to the circulation desk, settling into her chair, the gentle hum of the computer a familiar comfort. A few minutes later, an elderly woman, Mrs. Gable arrived, her knitted shawl wrapped tightly around her. "Good morning, Elara dear," she chirped, her voice a little breathless. "Got anything new in the gardening section? My prize-winning petunias are looking a bit droopy." Elara smiled. "Good morning, Mrs. Gable. Let me check for you." She helped Mrs. Gable find a book on organic pest control, sharing a quiet laugh about the stubbornness of aphids. As Mrs. Gable shuffled off, book in hand, Elara glanced towards the local history section again. The man was still there, a book pulled from a shelf, his head tilted slightly as he read, absorbed. His profile was strong, a slight stubble dusting his jaw, suggesting he might have risen early. He seemed to carry an aura of calm, a stillness that resonated with the library's own peaceful energy. After a while, he approached the desk, the book held carefully in his hands. It was an old, somewhat obscure volume titled The Stone and the Stream, A History of Oakhaven's Early Industries. Elara recognized it immediately. It was a rare find, usually kept in the archives, but this particular copy had been recently returned after a local history buff had finished with it. "Good morning," he said, his voice a low, warm murmur that seemed to carry an almost tactile quality, a gentle rumble. It wasn't loud, but it filled the quiet space between them. It was a voice that invited listening, a voice like a whisper, meant to be heard. "Good morning," Elara replied, her own voice perhaps a shade softer than usual. "Found what you were looking for." He offered her a small, self-effacing smile, and Elara noticed a crinkle at the corner of his green eyes. "I think so. This is fascinating. I didn't realize Oakhaven had such a rich past in quarrying and millwork." "It does," Elara confirmed, taking the book to scan it. "Most people only think of the beautiful old houses and the oak trees now, but the foundations of this town were literally built on stone and water." "Liam Thorne," he offered, extending a hand over the counter. His grip was firm, warm, and brief. "I just moved to Oakhaven." "Elara Vance," she replied, a faint blush warming her cheeks at the unexpected gesture. "Welcome to Oakhaven, Mr. Thorne. Or should I say, Liam?" He chuckled, a soft, pleasant sound. "Liam is fine. Please. And it's a pleasure to meet you, Elara. You clearly know your way around this place." He gestured around the library. "It's my sanctuary," she admitted, scanning the book. "This particular volume is quite special. We usually keep it in the archives, but it was just returned. Lucky timing for you." "Serendipity, perhaps," he mused, leaning slightly on the counter, his gaze thoughtful. "I'm setting up a woodworking shop just outside of town, near the old mill ruins. I'm trying to get a feel for the local history, the materials, the way things were built here generations ago." Elara's interest was piqued. A woodworking shop. That explained the subtle scent of timber that seemed to cling to him. A clean, earthy aroma. "That sounds wonderful. What kind of woodworking do you do?" "Furniture mostly. Custom pieces. I like to work with reclaimed wood or locally sourced timber when I can get it. Give old materials new life, you know. There's a story in every knot, every grain." His eyes lit up as he spoke, a genuine passion radiating from him. "I can imagine," Elara said, handing him the checked-out book. "That's a beautiful philosophy, like giving old books new readers." Their eyes met, and in that shared understanding, a quiet connection sparked. It wasn't loud or dramatic, but a gentle hum, like the library itself. "Exactly," Liam said, a slow smile spreading across his face. "So, you're the keeper of stories and I'm the reteller of wood." "Something like that," Elara agreed, feeling a lightness she hadn't expected. "If you need any other resources for your research, please don't hesitate to ask. We have quite a collection of local history, and some old maps that might interest you." "I certainly will," he promised, clutching the book. "Thank you, Elara. This has been a very warm welcome to Oakhaven." With another small, polite nod, he turned and walked out, leaving behind a lingering sense of his presence, and that faint, pleasant scent of wood. Elara watched him go, then leaned back in her chair, a soft smile playing on her lips. Liam Thorne, a woodworker. A quiet, observant man with green eyes, and a voice like a whispered secret. The rest of her morning passed in its usual gentle rhythm, but a new thread had woven itself into the fabric of her day. She found herself thinking about Liam, wondering about his workshop, the kind of furniture he created, the stories he saw in the wood. It was a pleasant distraction, a quiet hum in the background of her thoughts. Over the next few days, Liam became a regular, if infrequent, visitor to the library. He didn't always check out books. Sometimes he just came to browse, to sit in one of the comfortable armchairs by the tall windows, a notebook open in his lap, sketching or making notes. Elara would catch glimpses of him, his brow furrowed in concentration, the way he'd absent-mindedly run a hand over the smooth wood of an old table, as if discerning its history through touch. Their interactions remained brief, always polite, but each time, Elara felt a subtle shift, a deepening of the quiet understanding that had begun on his first visit. He'd ask her for recommendations, not just for history books, but sometimes for stories, classic literature, novels set in small towns, even poetry. He seemed to absorb everything with a thoughtful intensity. "I find it helps," he explained one afternoon, when she handed him a collection of Robert Frost poems. "To understand the people, you have to understand their thoughts, their feelings. Literature is a window into the soul of a place, isn't it?" Elara nodded, genuinely pleased. "It absolutely is. It's the whispers of generations, distilled into words." He smiled, that slow, genuine smile that reached his eyes. Whispers. Yes, that's a perfect way to put it. One chilly Tuesday morning, a week or so after their first meeting, Liam approached her desk with a small, distressed book in his hand. It wasn't one of the libraries. It was old, its cover worn, its pages yellowed and brittle. "Elara," he began, his voice softer than usual, "I wonder if you could help me. My grandmother gave me this book when I was a boy. It was her favorite, and it meant a great deal to her. I've taken it everywhere with me, and it's falling apart. The spine is broken and some of the pages are coming loose. I was hoping with your expertise you might know someone who could restore it. He handled the book with such tenderness, such reverence, that Elara's heart warmed. It was a collection of classic fairy tales, beautifully illustrated, but clearly loved almost to destruction. "Oh, Liam," she said softly, taking the book from him with gentle hands. "This is truly precious." She carefully examined the damage. "It needs a professional, someone who specializes in antique book restoration. It's delicate work. There's an old bindery in the next town over, the Gilded Page. They're renowned for their craftsmanship. I can give you their details, or even call them for you if you like." "Would you?" he asked, his green eyes earnest. "I'd be so grateful. I've been so worried about it, but I didn't know where to start." "Of course," Elara said, her fingers tracing the faded gold lettering on the cover. "It would be an honor to help preserve this. Family treasures are the most important stories of all." As she jotted down the bindery's contact information and offered to make the initial inquiry, a comfortable silence settled between them. It was the kind of silence that wasn't empty, but filled with unspoken understanding. Elara felt a particular warmth bloom in her chest. This was more than just a library transaction. It was a glimpse into Liam's personal world, a shared moment of vulnerability and trust. "Thank you, Elara," he said again, his voice imbued with genuine gratitude. "You have no idea how much this means to me." "It's my pleasure, Liam," she replied, meeting his gaze. "Truly." She called the Gilded Page later that afternoon, explaining the situation and arranging for Liam to drop off his grandmother's book. The conversation was easy, flowing, as if they'd known each other for years, not just a few weeks. The shared endeavor of restoring the precious book seemed to create a new layer of intimacy between them, a quiet thread tying their separate worlds together. The next time Liam came into the library, it was a Saturday, a day usually bustling with families. He found Elara in the children's section, reading aloud to a circle of wide-eyed toddlers, her voice animated and playful as she brought a dragon to life. He leaned against a bookshelf, a soft smile on his face watching her. There was a genuine joy in her expression, a warmth that extended to every child in the room. When she finished, the children clapped enthusiastically, and Elara's cheeks flushed with pleasure. As the children dispersed, she noticed Liam. "Oh, hello," she said, a little surprised. "I didn't see you come in." "I didn't want to interrupt," he said, pushing off the shelf. "You're very good with them. You have a knack for making stories come alive." "It's one of my favorite parts of the job," she admitted, gathering the picture books. "Bringing the whispers of authors to new ears." Speaking of whispers, he said, a hint of playful mischief in his eyes, I called The Gilded Page. They were very kind, and I'm taking the book over next week. Thank you again for setting that up. You're very welcome, Alara said, feeling a familiar warmth spread through her. I'm glad it worked out. He paused, then gestured vaguely. I was actually hoping to pick your brain, if you have a moment. I'm looking for something different. Something that captures the essence of Oakhaven, not just its history, but its soul. Something perhaps more personal, less academic. Alara tilted her head, intrigued. More personal? What do you mean? I'm working on a commission, he explained. A large piece, a library table for a new community center in a nearby town. I want to incorporate elements that speak to Oakhaven, where the wood is sourced. I'm using an old oak that fell during a storm a few years back, from just outside of town. I want the table to tell a story, to whisper something of this place. Alara's eyes lit up. This was exactly the kind of project that resonated with her own love for narrative. That's a beautiful idea. The soul of Oakhaven. She tapped her chin thoughtfully. Have you looked at our local poetry collections? Or perhaps some of the old journals and memoirs from early residents? We have a small archive of those, though they're not cataloged for general circulation. Liam's eyes widened. Journals? Memoirs? I didn't even know that was an option. They're a special collection, Alara explained, leading him towards a discreet door at the back of the library, near her office. Fragile, but full of incredible insights. Letters, diaries, even old recipe books that have marginalia about daily life. The real whispers of the past. She unlocked the door, revealing a small, climate-controlled room lined with shelves of carefully preserved documents and books. The air was cool, smelling faintly of parchment and old paper. This is incredible, Liam breathed. His voice hushed, his eyes scanning the shelves with reverence. It's like stepping into a time capsule. It is, Alara agreed, her voice softer in the hushed space. We have a few donations from some of Oakhaven's founding families. Their stories aren't in the official histories, but they're here, in their own words. She pulled out a sturdy, leather-bound journal, its cover faded, its pages filled with elegant looping script. This belonged to Eleanor Finch, a woman who moved to Oakhaven in the late 1800s. She was an amateur botanist and kept meticulous records of the local flora, but also wrote beautifully about her daily life, her observations of the town, the changing seasons, the simple joys and sorrows. Liam took the journal from her, his fingers brushing hers for a fleeting moment. He opened it carefully, his gaze falling on the delicate script. This is exquisite. The handwriting alone is a work of art. Indeed, Alara said, watching his face. She often wrote about the strength of the old oak trees, the resilience of the community, the way the light fell through the leaves in autumn, small details that paint a vivid picture. This is exactly what I was looking for, Liam said, his voice a low, appreciative murmur. Thank you, Alara. You have a gift for finding the hidden gems. It's just knowing where to look, she demurred, a blush rising on her cheeks. And listening to what people are truly seeking. More than that, he insisted, his green eyes meeting hers. You understand the stories. You connect with them, and then you connect others to them. He spent a long time in the archive room that afternoon, carefully reading through Eleanor Finch's journal, making notes in his own small notebook. Alara would check on him periodically, offering him a cup of tea, or answering a question about a particular historical detail. The shared quiet of the archive, the rustle of old pages, the soft scratch of his pen, it created a sense of comfortable companionship. As the afternoon waned and the library began to empty, Liam finally emerged from the archive, a thoughtful expression on his face. I found it, he announced, a quiet triumph in his voice. Eleanor wrote about a specific carving she saw on an old gatepost near her home. A small stylized oak leaf with a single acorn. She said it was a symbol of quiet strength and enduring growth. I think I'll incorporate that into the table. That's beautiful, Liam, Alara said, genuinely touched by his dedication and the sensitivity with which he approached his craft. Eleanor would have loved that. He smiled, a deep, contented smile. I hope so. It feels right, a quiet whisper from the past, carried into the future. He paused, then looked at her, his expression softening. I'd like to show you the progress on the table, once I get started on the carving, Would you be interested? Alara's heart fluttered, a soft, hopeful beat. I would love that, Liam. Very much. Great, he said, a genuine warmth in his gaze. I'll let you know when it's ready for a sneak peek. And perhaps, he hesitated, then continued, his voice dropping to a softer, almost shy tone. Perhaps you'd let me treat you to coffee or dinner sometime, as a thank you for all your help with the book and now with Eleanor's journal. I'd like to hear more about your own stories, Alara. Alara felt a wave of pleasant surprise wash over her. A quiet thrill. Her cheeks flushed again, but she met his gaze, a genuine smile blooming on her face. I would like that very much, Liam. Thank you. His smile widened, and for a moment the quiet hum of the library seemed to amplify, filling with a new kind of warmth, a new kind of whisper. As Liam finally left, the autumn evening settling around Oakhaven, Alara stood by the window, watching him walk away, a lightness in her step, and a quiet anticipation stirring in her heart. The whispers of old stories had brought them together, and now, new whispers were beginning to form, promising a story all their own. Alara watched until Liam's figure was no more than a speck fading into the twilight, the crunch of his boots on fallen leaves growing fainter until it vanished entirely. The library, usually a place of solitary comfort for her after hours, now felt imbued with a new, gentle energy. She found herself smiling, a soft, private smile that touched her eyes. The hat, a rich chestnut brown, lay on the counter where he'd placed it, its soft wool inviting to the touch. She picked it up, feeling the quality of the fabric, the thoughtful craftsmanship. It was perfect. Not too elaborate, not too casual, just right. It fit her, somehow, even before she'd tried it on. As she moved about the library, locking up for the night, a lightness indeed accompanied her steps. Her mind replayed their conversation, the easy banter, his observant gaze, the genuine warmth in his voice. He hadn't just given her a hat. He had noticed her, had remembered a passing comment, and had acted on it with such simple kindness. It was a rare and precious thing, she realized, to be seen so clearly, so thoughtfully. Back in her small apartment above the bookstore next door, she finally tried on the hat. It settled perfectly on her head, framing her face in a way that felt both familiar and new. The soft wool was a comforting weight, a tangible link to the man who had given it to her. She looked at her reflection in the mirror, a faint blush warming her cheeks. For the first time in a long while, she felt a flutter of something akin to excitement, a hopeful hum beneath the quiet rhythm of her life. She hung the hat carefully on a hook by the door, a silent promise of future wear. Sleep came easily that night, filled with pleasant dreams of autumn leaves and quiet smiles. The next morning, the hat was the first thing she saw. She reached for it, a small ritual beginning to form. Paired with her favorite cozy sweater, it felt like a silent companion as she walked the short distance to the library. The crisp autumn air bit at her cheeks, but the hat offered a welcome warmth. She found herself looking forward to the day with an unusual eagerness, a subtle shift in her usual routine contentment. Liam didn't appear that morning, nor in the early afternoon, and a tiny pang of something she couldn't quite name settled in Alara's chest. She busied herself with cataloging new arrivals, her hands moving with practiced efficiency, but her mind kept wandering. Had she imagined the warmth in his smile? Had his gesture been simply a friendly one, nothing more? She chided herself for reading too much into it. He was a new resident, perhaps simply making an effort to be part of the community. Just as the afternoon light began to slant through the high library windows, painting golden stripes across the worn wooden floors, the chime above the door announced a visitor. Alara looked up, her heart giving a little skip. It was Liam. He paused just inside, shaking a few stray leaves from his scarf, his eyes scanning the room until they met hers. A slow smile spread across his face, genuine and warm, and Alara felt an answering warmth bloom within her. Good afternoon, Alara, he said, his voice a low, pleasant rumble. I see the hat found its rightful owner. His gaze lingered for a moment on the chestnut wool, a look of quiet satisfaction in his eyes. It did, she replied, a little shyly, reaching up to touch the brim. I love it, Liam. Thank you again. He walked towards the main desk, a large, well-worn leather-bound book tucked under his arm. I was passing by and thought I'd return this. It was a fascinating read. He placed the book A local history of Oakhaven, on the counter. And I also wanted to ask if you happen to know of any particularly good coffee shops around here. I'm still navigating the culinary landscape of Oakhaven. Ilara's smile widened. There's the Daily Grind just a few blocks down. They make an excellent latte. And their spiced apple muffins are legendary. Liam's eyes lit up. Spiced apple muffins, you say? That sounds like precisely what this autumn afternoon calls for. Would you, by any chance, be inclined to join me for one? I'd consider it a small token of thanks for the hat, and for the excellent book recommendation. Her heart fluttered again, a more definite, joyful beat this time. It was a simple invitation, casual, yet it felt significant. I'd like that very much, Liam, she said, her voice a little softer than usual. Let me just finish up here. Within minutes, the library was secured, and Ilara found herself walking beside Liam down the leaf-strewn pavement. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of damp earth and distant wood smoke. Her hat felt extra cozy today, a silent companion to the comfortable silence that settled between them. They talked easily as they walked, about the history book he'd just finished, about the changing colors of the trees, about the unexpected charm of Oakhaven. It's a beautiful place, Liam commented, gesturing to the quaint storefronts and historical buildings lining the street. So much character. I feel like I'm constantly discovering new little details. It does have a way of revealing itself slowly, Ilara agreed, glancing up at the intricate Victorian trim on an old house. Like a good book, you have to spend time with it to truly appreciate its layers. He chuckled, a warm, resonant sound. A perfect analogy from a librarian. You know, I've always admired people who dedicate their lives to books. There's a certain quiet wisdom that comes with being surrounded by stories all the time. Ilara felt a blush creep up her neck. It's a privilege, I think, she admitted. To be a custodian of so many worlds. And a guide, Liam added, meeting her gaze. You've been a wonderful guide for me already. At the Daily Grind, the aroma of coffee and cinnamon filled the air. They found a cozy corner table by the window, bathed in the soft golden light of the late afternoon. Liam insisted on buying the coffees and muffins, despite Ilara's polite protests. As they sat, sipping their warm drinks and crumbling the delicious muffins, their conversation flowed effortlessly. He told her more about his work as a historical researcher, delving into archival documents and forgotten letters to piece together narratives of the past. He spoke of the thrill of discovery, the quiet satisfaction of bringing forgotten voices to light. Ilara listened, captivated by his passion, by the way his eyes would light up when he described a particularly challenging puzzle he'd solved. It sounds like a very solitary pursuit, she observed, swirling the foam in her latte. It can be, he conceded. But there's also a deep connection to humanity, to the people whose lives you're exploring. And sometimes, he paused, looking directly at her, it's nice to share the discoveries, or at least the journey, with someone. Ilara felt a warmth spread through her, deeper than the coffee. She found herself opening up, sharing her own quiet joys of library work. She even spoke a little about her childhood, growing up surrounded by books thanks to her grandmother, who had been a librarian herself. It seems destiny called you to Oakhaven Library then, Liam said, a gentle smile playing on his lips. Perhaps, she agreed, a thoughtful expression on her face. Sometimes I feel like the library chose me, rather than the other way around. They talked until the shadows grew long, and the cafe began to empty. The easy camaraderie between them was a balm to Ilara's soul. It wasn't just that Liam was kind and charming. It was that he understood her, or, at least, he was willing to try. He seemed to appreciate the quiet spaces within her, the reverence she held for stories and history. As they walked back to the library, the streetlights casting long, flickering shadows, the air was colder now, carrying the promise of a truly autumnal night. Thank you, Liam, Ilara said as they reached the library door. For the coffee, the muffin, and the wonderful company. The pleasure was all mine, Ilara, he replied, his gaze soft in the dim light. I truly enjoyed our talk. He hesitated for a moment, then continued, You know, there's an old historical society building here in Oakhaven. It's not usually open to the public, but I've managed to get access for some of my research. There are some incredible archives there. First edition maps, old town records. I was thinking perhaps, if you'd be interested, you might like to see it sometime. I could show you around. I could show you around. Ilara's eyes widened with genuine delight. The Oakhaven Historical Society was a legendary place, rumored to hold treasures of local history, but it had always been a closed-off, almost mythical entity to her. The thought of exploring it with Liam, who clearly understood its significance, was exhilarating. I would absolutely love that, Liam, she said, her voice filled with a quiet enthusiasm that surprised even herself. That would be incredible. Wonderful, he said, a broad smile returning. How about this coming Saturday? We could meet late morning and perhaps grab some lunch afterwards. There's a small place that makes excellent homemade soup. Saturday sounds perfect, Ilara confirmed, her heart doing another little leap. The prospect of spending a Saturday with him, delving into Oakhaven's past, filled her with a joyful anticipation that buzzed beneath her calm exterior. Excellent, Liam said, his smile lingering. Then I'll see you Saturday, Ilara. Have a good evening. You too, Liam. She watched him walk away once more, the warmth of their shared afternoon still clinging to her like the scent of coffee and cinnamon. This time, as she entered the quiet library, the hum in the air wasn't just anticipation. It was a gentle echo of connection, a promise of shared adventures. The hat on her head felt like a crown, and the whispers of old stories seemed to sing a new, sweeter melody. The days leading up to Saturday passed in a blur of cheerful efficiency for Ilara. She found herself humming as she shelved books, her thoughts often drifting to Liam, to his kind eyes and thoughtful questions. She even chose her outfit for Saturday with more care than usual, settling on a soft, moss-green sweater that complemented the hat, and comfortable boots for exploring. Saturday dawned crisp and clear, the autumn sun casting long golden rays over Oakhaven. Ilara arrived at the Historical Society building a few minutes early, her stomach aflutter with nerves and excitement. It was an imposing old stone building, ivy-clad and steeped in history, its windows reflecting the morning light like watchful eyes. Liam was already there, waiting on the steps, a thermos and a small bag in hand. He wore a tweed jacket that suited him perfectly, making him look like a character from one of the historical novels she adored. His smile as she approached was as warm and welcoming as she remembered. Good morning, Ilara, he greeted, his eyes crinkling at the corners. Ready for an archaeological dig of sorts? More than ready, she laughed, feeling her nerves ease at his easy demeanor. He led her inside, and Ilara gasped softly. The interior of the labyrinth of towering shelves filled with ancient tomes, dusty boxes and rolled-up maps. The air hummed with the scent of old paper and wood polish. It was a librarian's dream, an archivist's paradise. This is incredible, Liam, she breathed, her eyes wide as she took it all in. I thought you'd appreciate it, he said, a pleased look on his face. Come, let me show you some of the highlights. For the next few hours, they lost themselves in the past. Liam, with his easy knowledge and contagious enthusiasm, guided her through the society's treasures. He showed her handwritten ledgers from Oakhaven's earliest settlers, intricately drawn maps detailing the town's growth, and even a collection of antique photographs that brought the town's history to vivid life. Ilara, in turn, shared her librarian's eye for detail, pointing out fascinating marginalia in old texts, or cross-referencing information with what she knew from the library's local history section. They discovered a shared delight in the small forgotten details, a humorous aside in a town council meeting minute from the 1800s, a beautifully penned love letter tucked into a family Bible, the story behind a faded photograph of a bustling Oakhaven market. Liam appreciated her insights, listening intently and asking thoughtful questions, making her feel truly seen and heard. At one point, they were examining a fragile hand-stitched sampler depicting Oakhaven's Main Street from the mid-19th century. Ilara traced a finger over the delicate embroidery. It's remarkable how much has changed, and yet some things are still recognizable, she mused. Liam leaned closer, his arm brushing hers gently as he pointed to a detail on the sampler. See that building there with the tall, narrow windows? That's where the library stands now, or rather where the first iteration of the library was, before the current building was built in the 1920s. Ilara looked from the sampler to Liam, a sense of wonder filling her. So, the library has always been a cornerstone of Oakhaven, she murmured. A place for stories, generation after generation. Exactly, he said, his voice soft. And now, you're part of that story, Alara. You're continuing that legacy. His words settled warmly within her, a quiet affirmation. Being with Liam felt natural, easy, like finding a missing piece to a puzzle she hadn't even realized she was working on. Their shared passion for history and stories created a bridge between them, making their connection feel deeper than the few weeks they had known each other. Around lunchtime, Liam produced the thermos and bag he'd brought. I thought we might appreciate some sustenance. I made some homemade vegetable soup, and I picked up some fresh bread from the bakery this morning. Alara's eyes widened. You made soup, Liam? You really didn't have to. He just smiled. I enjoy cooking, and I thought it would be a nice complement to our historical adventure. They found a quiet corner with an old oak table and spread out their simple lunch. The soup was hearty and delicious, the bread crusty and warm. They ate slowly, continuing their conversation, their voices hushed in the cavernous, history-filled room. It felt remarkably intimate, sharing this quiet meal amidst the echoes of the past. This is truly wonderful, Liam, Alara said, taking another sip of soup. Thank you for bringing me here, and for the delicious lunch. My pleasure, Alara, he replied, his gaze warm and steady. Spending time with you, sharing these discoveries, it's been the highlight of my week. After lunch, they spent a little more time in the archives, but the intensity of their morning had given way to a more relaxed exploration. By late afternoon, they emerged from the Historical Society building, blinking a little in the late autumn sunlight. The air had grown colder, and the sky was painted with hues of orange and purple. I haven't had such an engaging Saturday in years, Alara confessed, pulling her hat a little tighter against the chill. Me neither, Liam agreed, zipping up his jacket. It was truly wonderful, Alara. Thank you for making it so. He paused, then looked at her, his expression thoughtful. I was wondering if you're not busy this evening. There's a small, independent cinema in the next town over that's showing an old classic. Roman Holiday, I believe. I was planning to go, and I thought... Alara's heart skipped. An evening out, a movie. It felt like a date, a real date, and the thought filled her with a nervous thrill. Roman Holiday is one of my favorites, she admitted, a soft smile gracing her lips. I would love to, Liam. It. Fantastic, he said, his own smile widening. How about I pick you up from your apartment around 7? We could grab a light dinner beforehand. That sounds perfect, she said, feeling a warmth spread through her despite the crisp air. As Liam walked her back to the library, the setting sun cast a golden glow over Oakhaven. The town, which she had always loved for its quiet charm, now felt imbued with a new kind of magic, a vibrant sense of possibility. The whispers of old stories had brought them together in the library, and now those whispers were leading them out into the wider world, creating new memories, new voices all their own. Alara spent the next few hours in a delightful flurry of anticipation. She chose a simple but elegant dress, brushed her hair until it shone, and even applied a touch of lipstick, a rare indulgence. The hat, for this evening, stayed on its hook, but its presence was a comforting reminder of how this all began. When Liam arrived at her door at 7, he looked even more handsome than usual in a dark sweater and slacks. He carried a small bouquet of autumn flowers, deep red chrysanthemums and goldenrod, which he presented to her with a charming smile. For you, Alara, he said, his eyes warm. They reminded me of the colors of your hat, and of Oakhaven in autumn. Oh, Liam, they're beautiful, she said, genuinely touched, burying her face in their fragrant petals. Thank you. He led her to a charming little bistro she hadn't known existed, tucked away on a quiet side street. The atmosphere was cozy and inviting, with soft lighting and the murmur of quiet conversation. Over a light dinner of artisanal sandwiches and a delicate mushroom soup, they continued their easy conversation, delving into topics beyond books and history. They talked about their favorite seasons, their childhood dreams, even their quirks and pet peeves, sharing pieces of themselves that felt increasingly precious. Liam confessed a fondness for terrible puns, which made Alara laugh, a genuine, unrestrained sound that surprised even herself. Alara admitted to his secret love for cheesy detective novels, which Liam, in turn, found endearing. With each shared anecdote, each gentle laugh, The space between them seemed to shrink, replaced by a growing sense of intimacy and connection. At the cinema, nestled in the comfortable darkness, they shared whispered comments about the film, a classic tale of unexpected romance. Elara found herself stealing glances at Liam, seeing the soft glow of the screen reflected in his eyes, feeling the warmth of his presence beside her. His hand resting on the armrest between them was tantalizingly close. She imagined reaching out, touching his fingers, but held back, savoring the slow, deliberate unfolding of their connection. As the credits rolled and the lights came up, a comfortable silence settled between them, filled with the lingering magic of the film and the unspoken understanding that had grown between them throughout the day. "That was wonderful," Elara said as they stepped back out into the cool night air. The stars were bright above them, a vast, glittering canvas. "It was," Liam agreed, his gaze moving from the sky to her face. "A perfect end to a perfect day." He paused, then took a small step closer. "Elara, I've truly enjoyed every moment with you today. More than I can say." Her heart thrummed in response. "Me too, Liam, truly." They walked slowly back to her apartment, the silence no longer just comfortable, but charged with a gentle anticipation. The streetlights cast long shadows, and the crisp air brought a blush to Elara's cheeks. When they reached her door, they both hesitated, reluctant for the evening to end. "Thank you again, Liam," Elara said, looking up at him. "For everything. The historical society, the soup, the movie. It was all so lovely." "It was," he repeated, his voice a little softer now. His eyes held hers, a silent question in their depth. He reached out, his fingers gently brushing a stray wisp of hair from her cheek. His touch was light, yet it sent a shiver of warmth through her. "I had an idea for next weekend," he said, his voice a low murmur. "There's a beautiful hiking trail just outside of town with a breathtaking view of Oakhaven from the summit. The foliage should be at its peak. I thought, perhaps we could pack a picnic, if you're free, that is." Elara's breath hitched slightly. A hike, a picnic, a panoramic view of their charming town. It sounded like something out of a dream. "I would love that, Liam," she whispered, her gaze locked with his. The world seemed to shrink to just the two of them, standing on her doorstep under the watchful gaze of the autumn moon. The whispers had grown louder, clearer, no longer just a promise, but a beautiful, unfolding reality. They were writing their story, one thoughtful gesture, one shared smile, one gentle whisper at a time. The following Saturday dawned crisp and bright, a perfect canvas for their first official date. Liam arrived at Clara's doorstep precisely at 9, not with a bouquet of flowers, but with a thermos of steaming pumpkin spice latte, Clara's favorite, a detail he'd subtly gathered from their earlier conversations. He also carried a small, beautifully woven picnic basket, clearly homemade and sturdy, a testament to his craftsmanship, even in everyday items. Clara, dressed in comfortable hiking leggings and a soft forest green sweater, felt a familiar warmth unfurl in her chest at his thoughtful gesture. "Good morning," she greeted, her smile genuine and relaxed. "Ready for an adventure?" "As I'll ever be," Liam chuckled, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "I thought we'd start with a gentle climb up Juniper Hill. It's not too strenuous, but the view from the top is spectacular this time of year." The walk was everything Clara had hoped for and more. The path wound through woods ablaze with autumn foliage, crimson maples, golden oaks, and russet birches creating a vibrant canopy overhead. They walked at a comfortable pace, their shoulders occasionally brushing, their conversation flowing as easily as the stream that gurgled beside the trail. They talked about their childhoods in their respective small towns, the unexpected paths that led them to Havenwood, their shared love for quiet mornings, and the satisfaction of working with their hands. Liam spoke of the grain of wood, the way a piece could tell a story, and Clara described the joy of finding the perfect bead or the softest yarn, envisioning the finished piece before her hands even began to work. When they reached the summit of Juniper Hill, the vista spread out before them was breathtaking. Havenwood lay nestled in the valley, its colorful houses like scattered jewels, the church steeple rising proudly, and the winding river a silver ribbon through the landscape. The air was cool and invigorating, carrying the scent of pine and damp earth. Liam carefully spread a thick tartan blanket on a patch of sun-dappled grass. From the picnic basket, He produced an array of delights: artisanal sandwiches from the local deli, crisp apple slices, a small container of Clara's favorite almond croissants from the bakery down the street, and another thermos, this one filled with warm apple cider. Each item was a silent testament to his attentiveness. "Liam, this is perfect," Clara said, her voice soft with gratitude. She looked at him, truly saw him, the way the sunlight caught the flecks of gold in his kind eyes, the gentle curve of his smile. He wasn't trying too hard, wasn't putting on a show. He was simply being himself, and it was utterly captivating. They ate slowly, savoring the food and the companionable silence, punctuated by observations about the view or gentle inquiries about each other's daydreams. Clara found herself sharing stories she hadn't told anyone in years, anecdotes about her grandmother, who had first taught her to knit, or the whimsical reasons behind some of her shop's most popular items. Liam listened with genuine interest, his gaze unwavering, making her feel seen and cherished in a way she hadn't experienced before. As the sun began its slow descent, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, a comfortable silence settled between them. Liam reached out, his fingers gently brushing hers as he picked up a stray leaf that had fallen onto the blanket. Their eyes met, and in that moment, the unspoken currents between them hummed with a quiet intensity. It was a promise, a feeling of rightness that settled deep in Clara's soul. He drove her home as twilight deepened, the town lights twinkling like fallen stars. At her doorstep, the autumn moon, now fuller and brighter than before, cast long shadows. Liam turned to her, his hand resting lightly on her arm. "Clara," he began, his voice a low rumble that sent a shiver down her spine. "Today was truly wonderful, thank you." "Thank you, Liam," she replied, her heart fluttering. She wanted to lean in, to feel the warmth of his embrace, but something held her back. A lingering ghost of past disappointments, a whisper of caution. He seemed to sense her hesitation, his eyes searching hers. Instead of pushing, he simply smiled, a gentle, understanding smile. "I had a feeling you'd appreciate the almond croissants," he teased, lightening the mood. Clara laughed, the tension easing. "You know me too well already." "Perhaps," he murmured, his gaze lingering on her lips for a heartbeat longer than strictly platonic. "Good night, Clara." "Good night, Liam." He turned and walked back to his truck, and Clara watched him go, a wistful smile playing on her lips. No kiss, not yet. But the air between them was thick with anticipation, a sweet promise of what was to come. The whispers were no longer just whispers, they were growing into a melody, a symphony of quiet affection. Over the next few weeks, their story continued to unfold, each chapter more endearing than the last. They fell into a comfortable rhythm of dates, cozy evenings at the local diner, sharing milkshakes and stories, brisk walks along the river, hands occasionally brushing as they pointed out migrating birds, even an afternoon spent at Liam's workshop, where he patiently showed her the intricacies of dovetail joints, his calloused hands surprisingly gentle as he guided hers. Clara, in turn, invited him to her shop, the Haven Hearth, where she demonstrated how to cast delicate resin pendants or weave intricate macrame wall hangings. He watched, fascinated, admiring her artistry and the quiet passion that lit up her eyes when she spoke of her craft. He learned that Clara loved the smell of rain on dry earth, preferred tea over coffee in the evenings, and had a soft spot for cheesy romance novels she secretly devoured. She discovered that Liam hummed old folk tunes when he worked, preferred the quiet solitude of his workshop to crowded places. One blustery Saturday, a harsh autumn storm swept through Havenwood, knocking out power across the town. Clara found herself huddled in her shop, a battery-powered lantern casting flickering shadows, when a knock echoed on her door. It was Liam, holding a sturdy, homemade wooden candle holder with 3 lit beeswax candles, their warm glow chasing away the gloom. He also had a thermos of hot cocoa and a bag of freshly baked cookies. "Thought you might need some light and warmth," he said, his voice soft against the howl of the wind outside. He set the candle holder on her counter, its gentle illumination instantly making the space feel cozier. "Liam, you're a lifesaver," Clara breathed, tears pricking her eyes. His thoughtful gestures weren't grand, but they were deeply personal, always anticipating her needs. They sat on the floor amidst her craft supplies, sipping cocoa, sharing stories, and simply enjoying each other's company until the power flickered back on. In that intimate, candlelit space, surrounded by the scent of beeswax and chocolate, Clara felt a deep sense of belonging she hadn't known she was missing. As autumn deepened into winter, their relationship deepened too. The first snowfall transformed Havenwood into a winter wonderland, and Liam took Clara ice skating on the frozen pond, holding her hand firmly as she wobbled uncertainly, his laughter warm and encouraging. Afterwards, they warmed themselves by the fireplace at the town's oldest inn, sharing a mulled wine and the kind of comfortable silence that only truly close friends or lovers can share. Clara found herself thinking of Liam constantly. His quiet strength, his unwavering kindness, the way his hand felt in hers, it was all slowly, gently, chipping away at the protective walls she had built around her heart after a past relationship had left her feeling bruised and wary. She'd been hurt before, left feeling unseen and unheard, and had vowed to never let herself be so vulnerable again. But Liam wasn't like that. He saw her, truly saw her, and accepted every part of her, even the parts she kept hidden. Liam, for his part, found himself falling deeper in love with Clara with each passing day. Her gentle spirit, her passion for her craft, the way her eyes sparkled when she was excited. She was a quiet fire, warming his often solitary world. He had built his life around his work, finding solace and purpose in the rhythmic rasp of wood on wood. He hadn't realized how much he craved the warmth of another's soul, until Clara walked into his life, bringing with her a kaleidoscope of colors and soft textures. He felt a fierce, protective tenderness towards her, a desire to shield her from anything that might dim her light. One evening, as they were decorating Clara's shop for the upcoming holiday season, stringing fairy lights and hanging handmade ornaments, Liam watched her carefully place a tiny, intricately carved wooden bird onto a branch. "That's beautiful, Clara," he said softly. She turned, her cheeks flushed from the exertion and the joy of creation. "It's a robin. My grandmother always said they carried wishes on their wings." She hesitated, then looked at him directly. "Liam, I really like spending time with you, more than I've liked spending time with anyone in a very long time." His hand reached out, cupping her cheek, his thumb gently stroking her skin. "I feel the same way, Clara, more than the same way." His gaze was steady, warm, and utterly sincere. "I think I'm falling in love with you." Clara's breath hitched. Those words, spoken so simply yet with such profound sincerity, were a balm to her soul. The walls she had painstakingly built crumbled like sandcastles before a gentle tide. A tear escaped, tracing a path down her cheek. "I think I'm falling in love with you too, Liam," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. He closed the small distance between them, and this time there was no hesitation. His lips met hers in a soft, tender kiss, a promise sealed not with grand declarations, but with the quiet certainty of two souls finding their way home. It was gentle, hesitant at first, then deepened, conveying all the unspoken affection, the shared laughter, the comforting silences, and the growing bond between them. It was a kiss that tasted of cocoa and beeswax, of autumn leaves and winter snow, of hope and belonging. The holiday season was a whirlwind of activity for Clara's shop, the Haven Hearth. Orders poured in for her unique handcrafted gifts, and she found herself working long hours, often late into the night. Liam, ever thoughtful, would often show up with dinner, a warm cup of herbal tea, or simply to sit and keep her company while she worked, occasionally offering to help with packaging or organizing. His presence was a quiet anchor, a steadying force amidst the joyful chaos. One evening, as Clara was putting the finishing touches on a custom order, a beautiful wooden rocking horse, handcrafted by Liam, arrived at her shop for a customer. It was a masterpiece of his skill, smooth and polished, with intricate carvings and a gentle, inviting rocking motion. "Liam, this is magnificent," Clara said, running her hand over its gleaming surface. "The detail is incredible." He shrugged modestly. "Just a hobby, really? Something I enjoy." "It's more than a hobby," she insisted, turning to face him. "It's art, and it reminds me, you're always here for me, always supporting me, even when I'm swamped, but I feel like I haven't been giving you the attention you deserve lately." A shadow of worry crossed her face. "Are you okay with all this? With me being so busy?" Liam reached out, taking her hands in his. Clara, I love seeing you passionate about your work. It's one of the things I admire most about you, and I know this is your busiest time. I don't need constant attention, just the knowledge that you're happy and that we're still building our story one thoughtful gesture at a time. This, he gestured around the warmly lit shop, filled with her creations, is part of Gray's story now. His words eased a knot she hadn't realized was tightening in her chest. She squeezed his hands. Thank you for understanding, Liam. It means the world to me. Always, he replied, his gaze tender. As the new year dawned, bringing with it the promise of longer days and the slow thaw of winter, their relationship continued to deepen. They spent New Year's Eve quietly, curled up on Clara's sofa, watching old movies and sharing dreams for the coming year. Liam spoke of expanding his workshop, perhaps even taking on an apprentice one day. Clara envisioned the Haven Hearth hosting small craft workshops, sharing her skills with others. Their individual aspirations weren't separate. They wove together, supporting and inspiring each other. One weekend, Liam surprised Clara with a trip to a nearby antique fair. He knew she loved hunting for unique beads and vintage textiles. As they wandered through the stalls, hand in hand, Clara stumbled upon a small, dusty box filled with antique silver charms. Among them was a tiny, intricately detailed robin, just like the one she'd carved for her shop. "Look, Liam," she exclaimed, her eyes wide with delight. "It's a wish-carrying robin." Liam smiled, a warmth spreading through him at her genuine joy. "It's perfect for you." He bought it for her, and later that day, he carefully attached it to a delicate silver chain he'd crafted himself. He presented it to her that evening, the little robin gleaming against the soft fabric of her sweater. "It's beautiful," she whispered, her fingers tracing the tiny bird. "You're always finding ways to make me feel special." "You are special, Clara," he said, his voice husky. "You've brought so much light into my life." As winter gave way to the first tentative signs of spring, their conversations grew more intimate, more focused on their shared future. They started spending weekends at each other's homes, leaving toothbrushes and favorite mugs behind, slowly blurring the lines between his and hers. Clara found comfort in the quiet order of Liam's home, filled with his handcrafted furniture and the scent of sawdust and beeswax. Liam adored the cozy, colorful chaos of Clara's cottage, with its overflowing bookshelves and half-finished projects scattered artfully about. They talked about practical things, shared expenses, decorating choices, even their differing opinions on houseplants. Clara's abundant greenery versus Liam's minimalist approach. But beneath the practicalities, there was always the deep current of affection, the quiet understanding that they were building something enduring, brick by gentle brick. One particularly sunny spring afternoon, they were planting a small herb garden in Clara's backyard. Liam, surprisingly adept with a trowel, knelt beside her, his hands muddy but his expression content. "You know," Clara said, wiping a smudge of dirt from her nose with the back of her hand, "I used to think I was perfectly happy on my own. My shop, my hobbies, my quiet life here in Havenwood." She paused, looking at him. "And I was, but with you, it's like a whole new layer of happiness has been unlocked, a richer, deeper kind." Liam reached for her hand, intertwining their muddy fingers. "I know exactly what you mean. My workshop was my sanctuary, my everything. But now, when I'm working on a piece, I find myself thinking about where it would fit in your home, or if you'd like it. Everything feels more vibrant, more purposeful with you in it." He squeezed her hand. "Clara, I can't imagine my life without you anymore." Her heart swelled with emotion. "And I can't imagine mine without you, Liam." The whispers, which had started as gentle promises, were now a chorus, a symphony of shared dreams and unspoken understanding. Clara felt a profound sense of peace settle over her, a deep certainty that she had found her true north. Liam had been planning this moment for weeks, carefully crafting it with the same precision and thoughtfulness he applied to his woodworking. He wanted it to be perfect, a reflection of their journey, a testament to the quiet, enduring love they had cultivated. He chose a late spring evening, when the air was soft and fragrant with blooming lilacs. He led Clara not to a grand restaurant, but back to Juniper Hill, their special spot. This time he had packed a gourmet picnic, complete with Clara's favorite sparkling cider and fresh berries. As they ascended the familiar path, the setting sun painted the sky in shades of rose and gold, just as it had on their first date. When they reached the summit, Liam had already set up a small, elegant table, draped with a linen cloth, 2 comfortable chairs he'd crafted himself, and a vase holding a single perfect white rose. Soft fairy lights, battery-operated, twinkled around the edges of their secluded spot, casting a magical glow. Clara gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "Liam, this is incredible. You did all this." "Only the best for you," he murmured, pulling out her chair. They ate, reminiscing about their first hike, their early awkward but endearing conversations, the candlelit night in her shop. The conversation flowed easily, filled with laughter and tender glances. As darkness fully embraced the hill, and the stars began to pepper the inky sky, Liam stood up and walked around the table to Clara. He took her hands in his gaze intense and loving. "Clara," he began, his voice a little shaky but filled with conviction. "From the moment I first saw you, surrounded by your beautiful creations, there was something about you that drew me in. Your quiet strength, your gentle spirit, the way you pour your heart into everything you do." He paused, taking a deep breath. "You taught me that love isn't about grand gestures or loud declarations. It's about the small, thoughtful moments, the shared silences, the unwavering support, the way we build something beautiful together, one piece at a time." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, intricately carved wooden box. It was made of polished cherry wood, smooth and warm beneath his fingers, and on its lid he had carved a tiny, perfect robin. Clara's eyes welled up with tears as she recognized the symbol, the wish-carrying robin. Liam opened the box, revealing not a diamond ring, but something far more personal and meaningful. Inside, nestled on a bed of velvet, was a delicate silver ring. It wasn't flashy or ostentatious. Instead, it was subtly textured, resembling the grain of wood, and set with a single luminous moonstone, mirroring the autumn moon that had watched over their first tentative steps. "Clara," he continued, his voice thick with emotion, "you are my home, my haven, my greatest inspiration. I want to build a life with you, filled with quiet joys and shared dreams. I want to wake up next to you every morning, share our coffee, and watch the seasons change together. I want to keep writing our story, chapter by beautiful chapter, for all our days." He knelt before her, his eyes shining with unshed tears. "Clara May Jenkins, will you marry me? Will you build a life with me, one thoughtful gesture, one shared smile, one gentle whisper at a time?" Clara couldn't speak, her throat tight with emotion. Tears streamed down her face, but they were tears of pure joy, of overwhelming love and gratitude. This was it. This was the love she had always dreamed of. The quiet, profound connection she had once thought was only for storybooks. "Yes," she finally managed to choke out, her voice barely a whisper. "Oh, Liam, yes, 1,000 times yes." He stood, pulling her into a fervent embrace, holding her tightly as if he never wanted to let her go. He kissed her then, a kiss that was both tender and passionate, a culmination of all their shared moments, all their whispered promises. The moonstone on the ring, once slipped onto her finger, seemed to glow with a soft ethereal light, mirroring the happiness radiating from within her. Their wedding was exactly as they had envisioned it, small, intimate, and filled with love. They chose an early autumn day, returning to Juniper Hill for their ceremony, the trees once again ablaze with color, a testament to the cycles of nature and the enduring strength of their love. Clara wore a simple, elegant gown she had adorned with delicate lace and small hand-stitched robins. Liam, handsome in a tailored suit, had crafted their wedding arch from reclaimed barn wood, beautifully adorned with wildflowers. Their vows were personal, heartfelt, and spoken with unwavering sincerity. Clara promised to always see the beauty in his quiet strength, to support his dreams, and to fill their home with warmth and creativity. Liam promised to be her steadfast anchor, her gentle confidant, and to always find joy in the small, everyday moments they would share. He even crafted their wedding bands himself, simple, elegant silver, with a subtle wood-grain texture, a tangible symbol of their intertwining lives. As they exchanged rings, a gentle breeze rustled through the leaves, carrying with it the scent of pine and crisp autumn air, and for Clara, it felt like the whispers of their love story, now a loud and joyous celebration. Life together in Havenwood unfolded beautifully, a tapestry woven with shared laughter, comfortable silences, and countless thoughtful gestures. Clara's shop, the Haven Hearth, thrived, and Liam's woodworking business flourished, his custom pieces becoming highly sought after. Their homes, now truly in their home, a charming blend of his sturdy craftsmanship and her artistic flair, became a sanctuary, a place where creativity bloomed and love deepened with each passing day. They continued their traditions: morning walks, quiet evenings by the fire, regular visits to Juniper Hill to watch the seasons change. Liam would often leave a small, handcrafted item on her bedside table, a polished wooden bookmark, a tiny carved flower, just because. Clara, in turn, would surprise him with a new blend of tea, a hand-knitted scarf for winter, or a lovingly prepared meal after a long day in his workshop. The whispers that had first drawn them together, the promises of a love built on understanding and gentle affection, had blossomed into a profound, enduring reality. They were no longer just two individuals in Havenwood. They were Clara and Liam, a testament to the power of quiet love, of finding your soulmate not in a whirlwind, but in the gentle unfolding of shared moments, one thoughtful gesture, one shared smile, one gentle whisper at a time. Their story was still being written, every day a new line, a new paragraph, a beautiful, heartwarming testament to a love that was truly, wonderfully, forever. And as the moon rose over Havenwood each night, casting its gentle glow upon their peaceful home, it seemed to whisper its approval, a soft, contented sigh for a love story beautifully told.